At this World Cup, the teams recording the most pressures are usually losing. That sounds backwards because pressure is supposed to signal aggression and control. So in this video, we analyze all 100 FIFA match reports to ask a simple question. Does a higher pressure count show an effective press or a team chasing the ball? Start with Brazil against Norway. Brazil recorded 401 pressures. Norway recorded 185. Norway won 2-1. The usual reading is simple. More pressures means a better press. But a pressure is an action, not an outcome. It records that a defending side had to close someone down. It does not tell you whether that action trapped the opponent, won the ball, or simply happened because the first press had already failed. So we tested the idea properly, not with two hand-picked knockout games. We used every published FIFA World Cup report available so far. 72 group games, 28 knockout games, 100 matches in total. That gives us 200 team performances and 3 questions. Do winners press less? Do they turn pressure into more useful defensive outcomes? And what happens in the matches nobody wins? Start with every game that produced a winner. There are 80 of them. In 64, the winning team recorded fewer total pressures. That is exactly 80%. And the pattern is not being carried by the knockouts alone. In the group stage, 42 of 52 winners pressed less. In the knockouts, it happened in 22 of 28. So the larger sample does not soften the finding, it strengthens it. Across all decisive matches, winners averaged 235 total pressures. Losers averaged 293. That is roughly 58 fewer pressure actions by the team that won. This is the key distinction. The team with less of the ball gets more opportunities to pressure it, and if its first pressure is bypassed, it may need another one. And another one. The raw total rises. Across all 200 team performances, total pressures had a very strong negative relationship with FIFA's possession measure, -0.78. In plain English, the less possession a team had, the more total pressures it tended to record. Total pressures also rose with slower ball recovery time, +0.73. That is why this cannot be an effort leaderboard. A giant number can describe a side that is aggressive, but it can also describe a side that is repeatedly late, repeatedly bypassed, and repeatedly trying to get back what it has lost. There is another clue. The direct pressure numbers are much closer. Winners averaged 42, losers 47. But total pressure actions split 235 to 293. The story is not that winners never defend. It is that effective defending needs fewer repeat actions. Argentina against Jordan is the cleanest group stage example. Jordan registered 471 pressures. Argentina registered 184. That is not a small difference. Jordan recorded more than 2.5 times as many pressure actions. But Argentina still forced more turnovers, 42 to 37. And Argentina's average ball recovery time was just under 10 seconds. Jordan's was almost 33. Argentina won 3-1. This is what a bad reading of the pressure graphic misses. Jordan did not necessarily defend with more control. Jordan had to defend more often, for longer, and with far more repeated attempts. The same profile appeared later against Egypt. Argentina pressed 190 times to Egypt's 380, forced more turnovers, and recovered the ball more than 7 seconds faster. One team was not passive, it was selective. France against Paraguay is the extreme case. France registered only 95 pressures. Paraguay registered 268. Yet France forced 37 turnovers. Paraguay forced 40. So Paraguay needed nearly 3 times the pressure volume to produce just 3 more turnovers. Then look at recovery time. France got the ball back in 8.01 seconds on average. Paraguay needed 20.48. That is why the better question is not who pressed more, it is how many attempts did it take before the pressure created something useful. For this analysis, we used 2 outcome checks alongside the raw total. First, Forced turnovers per 100 pressures. That is our simple pressure efficiency measure. It is not an official FIFA metric. It is a transparent way to ask whether pressure creates a turnover often enough to matter. Across decisive matches, winners averaged 18.7 forced turnovers per 100 pressures. Losers averaged 14.7. That is about 28% more productive pressure from the winning side. Second, ball recovery time. Winners averaged 14.78 seconds. Losers averaged 18.49. That is a gap of 3.72 seconds. And across the full tournament, higher pressure efficiency went with faster recovery extremely closely, a correlation of -0.81. So this is not an argument against pressing. It is an argument against counting pressure without counting what it produces. Now for the most useful stress test, the draws. There are 20 group stage draws in the data. No winner, so we cannot use the result to choose his side. But the underlying pattern remains. In 18 of the 20 draws, the team with fewer pressures had better turnover efficiency. In 18 of 20, it also recovered the ball faster. And in 16 draws, the lower pressure team had both advantages. That does not mean it deserved to win. A draw is a draw. But it does suggest that total pressure is describing a match condition, often chasing possession, rather than simply measuring defensive quality. This is not a prediction machine. 16 winners pressed more than their opponents. The most dramatic group stage exception is Paraguay against Turkey. Turkey registered 101 pressures. Paraguay registered 367. Paraguay still won 1-0. And this is exactly why the conclusion has to stay honest. One match can be decided by finishing, a goalkeeper, a set piece, a red card, or the order in which goals arrive. A team can also be efficient without winning that particular day. Turkey, for example, currently leads this tournament's minimum 3-match efficiency ranking, 24.7 forced turnovers per 100 pressures, with the fastest average recovery time in that group. The statistic describes control. It does not erase the rest of football. If we rank teams by forced turnovers per 100 pressures, with a minimum of 3 matches, the current top group is Turkey, Spain, Germany, the United States, and Panama. Spain is especially interesting because the numbers match the eye test across more than one kind of game: high efficiency, fast recovery, and a profile that appeared in both the group stage and the knockout rounds. But keep the label on screen: provisional. 3 matches is enough to start a conversation, not enough to crown a permanent truth. The useful takeaway is not copy the number 1 team. It is that any pressure graphic without possession, recovery time, and turnover outcomes is only showing part of the picture. Brazil's 401 pressures did not tell us that Brazil had the better press against Norway. They told us Brazil spent a great deal of the match trying to get the ball back. Across every decisive World Cup match in this dataset, the winner pressed less in 64 out of 80 games. The winning sides did less chasing, produced more turnover value from each pressure, and recovered possession faster. So the next time a broadcast tells you one team is pressing harder, ask a better question. Are they controlling the opponent, or are they simply trying to catch them? If you stayed with us until the end, thank you. If you enjoyed this analysis, please like the video and subscribe so you are notified when our next video goes live.